You're on.
Oh, I'm on now? Okay, hey. There's a lot of victories happening. It's a gift to you from old, I don't know, Kris Kringle himself. Because, you can't say Santa.
Yeah.
My dad says
evil.
Satan calls, not Santa Claus. Wherever side you're at. But there's a gift here. Find out all this and more on Self-Evident Podcast. Welcome to Self-Evident Podcast. You have Masked Dog. You have Miguel, Mike.
Yo.
And we're here because, it's time. It's Monday. It's the day before Christmas.
Christmas Eve.
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 Hey, man, 3 more days till Christmas, and y'all should be excited. Make sure to get all them gifts. You fellas, don't leave your wives hanging. You.
There was like a collective. I guarantee you said that, and a collective like, oh crap.
Yeah, crap. Wives, don't leave your husbands hanging, and the kids, they got enough. They did. So just quit it. They're already
spoiled.
They got enough. So guys, if you have last minute, I can't guarantee you to get to you by Christmas, but you can sure have a T-shirt. Go to theselfevidenttruth.com and get yourself a nice merch, because we got lots of it available now, all for you. Just in time for Christmas. Also, too, our year-end newsletter was released. Carrie just put out another post about it. If you're not on our email list, go on the selfevidenttruth.com and sign up for it. Some really cool things happening next year, especially for both of us, for Mike as well with the Forged and what he's doing. Now, I was texting Mike last night, because we usually do this now where it's like, okay, we could talk about 1,000 things, but what's really on our hearts? And I'm going through this thing, and my son actually shows me this little video of it was like a short of what's happening with like woke companies and Disney taking out a storyline of the transgender stuff. And I thought, how deep is this going? Like, are people really turning from the woke policies? Merry Christmas, folks, because it's happening.
The shift is happening. And you kind of, I think some people thought it would go forever, but at the same time, you kind of expect it to happen because you just can't keep it going. And at some point, the almighty dollar speaks. And especially with like Disney, Pixar, they're now recognizing or realizing that maybe people don't want to sit down for 2 hours of LGBTQ propaganda and destruction of family values, and they're not going to spend their dollars for it, because we have seen several movies that should have been big blockbusters completely flop because everybody went, I don't feel like getting preached to for 2 hours about the beauty and sanctity of changing my child's gender. And so there was, what movie was it? What was it called? The movie that they changed?
I'll look it up. I'll find it.
I put him on blast accidentally.
My bad.
So there was a movie that was about to be released.
It's a series, actually.
Oh, it's a series. Okay.
Win or Lose. It's called Win or Lose.
And there was a transgender storyline in the whole thing. And they decided, okay, we're going to pull that. We're going to just pull that whole storyline out of there. Now, you wouldn't do it. You wouldn't pull that out unless you had finally hit the point of saying, we can't keep doing this.
Right.
People aren't going to watch this. This isn't going to be entertaining to people. And I am telling you, this whole movement is a fad. It is a fad. It is going to die away. And then people are going to turn around and go like, oh, we really screwed that up. We shouldn't have gone hard on that.
Right.
And you're even watching Britain outlawing these procedures for kids and saying, no, we're not going to do that to kids. And you're watching the messaging die because people are going, this is insane, and I'm not going to entertain myself or my kids with this stuff. And I know you've got some quotes from the article of especially one of the people involved with the show, who tells you it's not about messaging, but it might be a little bit about messaging.
Yeah. Here's what's funny is I'm actually reading non-conservative articles about this, and I'm seeing what they're writing, right? And it's all like standard, substandard. I can't believe it's all about Trump. A lot of these articles about how bad Trump is.
It's all Trump's fault.
Which, you know, the only thing Trump is doing, the only thing Trump proves is people are sick and tired of agendas. Trump himself isn't really about the agendas. He's about making something right, but it's really the people. So these companies are responding to the people as a whole, right? And what's unique is, here it is. I found the article that has some of the stuff.
Quote.
That says people. This is actually Peltz, billionaire investor Nelson Peltz, who aimed and failed to land several seats at Disney's board of directors, claimed that people don't go to see Disney movies for its messaging. He says people go to watch a movie or a show to be entertained. They don't go to get a message. However, and I think he's saying that we shouldn't want to do messaging in movies. Right. Let's just entertain these kids, whatever. And I'll actually tell you an article of why this is actually happening, because there's tons of companies. That Inc. article, if you can pull that up, we'll talk about it in a minute. But I want you to see this. When it comes to animated content for younger audiences, we recognize that many parents would prefer to discuss certain subjects with their children on their own terms and timelines, said a Disney spokesperson in a statement to this liberal article. To me, it's liberal. The Street, that's what it's called. In an interview with Deadline, Chanel Stewart, a transgender voice actor, they didn't go to a conservative. They didn't go to any other, a Christian, a parent, right?
Nope.
Voiced the character in the show, admonished Disney's decision, claiming that her character now identifies as a straight cis girl in the series. And this is what she says. I just want you to hear the brokenness of this. I was very disheartened, and I'm disheartened every day that I can't have pancakes. Nobody gives a crap. Okay, chubby, you're overweight. Don't eat the pancakes, right? Said Stewart in an interview with Deadline. From the moment I got the script, I was excited to share my journey. Remember, the guy who wanted a seat on the board, he said, we shouldn't be watching.
Maybe it shouldn't be about messaging.
Shouldn't be about messaging. It should be about entertainment. Listen to this. I was excited to share my journey to help empower other trans youth. Empower them to what? Your way of
more
thinking.
like you.
Messaging, right? I knew this would be a very important conversation. Listen to this. Is where it bothers the snot out of me, and you can obviously kick her out of the park here. Kick her up, hit it out of the park. Trans stories matter, and they deserve to be heard. No, they don't. No story is deserving of to be heard. No, no one has merit over someone else. Can you imagine the arrogance you have to say my story deserves to be heard and you have to accept it? That is so prideful and arrogant to me that you would think that I would care about your story. Now, as a Christian, I do care about people's stories. I want them redeemed to the blood of Christ, but I cannot force Jesus on people. The Holy Spirit has to awaken their consciences. Does Christ deserve to be heard? Yes, his story and his story alone. When I became a Christian, I'm dead to myself. My story doesn't even matter. It's my testimony that brings people to Christ, what he's done in my life. But it doesn't deserve to be, I can't stump on the side of the road. You need to hear me, you wretched sinner, because no, they don't have to hear me. They make a choice.
Those words, I deserve, are so dangerous.
It's so prideful.
And you ever notice marketing messaging, you deserve this. And Melissa knows, if I hear that in marketing, I've completely shut off to anything else they have to say to me. Now, I may be different, a little weird, but those words, I deserve, you deserve.
No.
Let me go a little Jonathan Edwards on your butt. You deserve the fiery pits of hell. That's about it. It's real clear, concise, simple. Not a lot of gray area and all that.
That's it.
It's what you deserve.
Yep.
Now, what are we given through grace and mercy? Man, that's a whole lot more. But this whole my story deserves to be heard. No. You can say your story and we can decide whether or not to listen. Most of us probably aren't going to listen.
Right.
But you can say it. That does not mean you deserve, as in you have ownership over my attention. Now, some people may say, okay, Mike, you're getting a little in the weeds, but let's just walk down this train because this is the mentality of pride. This is the mentality of pride in essence. I was teaching the Constitution course, And one of the topics that we got on that people don't think about is the difference between negative rights and positive rights. Negative rights are you have the right to pursue this thing. Full stop. Freedom of speech is a negative right. I don't have to ask anything of anybody for me to talk. Massey doesn't have to listen. I have the freedom of speech, but he doesn't have to listen.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Positive rights are requiring health care. That means somebody could be forced to provide me services of health care, and me saying, well, I have a right to your services means I have a right to force you to give me something. That's positive rights.
It's called legal plunder. That's what Frederick Bastiat used to call it, legal plunder. It's socialism. It's when government can take from you at will, by force, by law. You are now considered a criminal by not giving money to the federal government for them to provide for other people.
Precisely.
That's literally, it's legal thievery is what it is.
Yeah. And that is that concept that people believe in positive rights. So I deserve is an expression of positive rights. I deserve your attention. I can force
and your
you.
admiration.
Yes. And there we go. Not just attention, admiration, promotion, that whole word tolerance that got twisted real fast,
Real
didn't
quick.
it? As opposed to like, look, you shouldn't be able to stop us from being who we are.
Right.
Okay, cool. I will tolerate you are who you are. Now, I believe that there is more for you and God intends more for you. And I believe that the path you're heading on is not good for you, but you have the freedom of choice. That got twisted from tolerate to if you don't promote and support and agree with me, then you need to be changed. You need to be forced. Jordan Peterson's going through that with Canada right now. And he's actually going to leave Canada because there's a hate speech bill that would basically, one of the provisions in it, I don't know if they ended up removing it or not, threatened up to life imprisonment for that hate phrase to be attached to a crime. So if you're charged with a crime and then we add hate onto it, well, could be life for you. Which could include stuff on the internet that you post. So this idea of I deserve is so it's wicked.
It's wicked, and I just think like the arrogance for you to think that I owe you, like you need to give me a primer on how I need to relate to you, talk to you, speak to you,
your message,
listen to you. It has to be probably the most prideful, disgusting show. And you want to talk about the right being fascist? This is fascism to the max. We deserve to be. No, you don't. No, you don't. And I'm not even being mean here. Nobody deserves anything. You got to work your butt off to even make your story heard. Like, nobody has to come and listen to Massey preach. Nobody has to come and listen to Mike and go through his classes. Nobody has to come and read the books that we write. Nobody has to watch the video. Nobody has to watch a podcast. I don't give a crap if you do or not.
Listen
I don't.
or not.
Like that's the thing is we put out information. If you want to consume it, consume it. But you don't. I don't deserve. I don't even have the mental gall to say that if you don't watch me, you're not a Christian or you're not good or you're not. And dude, that's what's so. And we'll talk about this later on in another podcast about the wickedness of these endless debates and just the wicked, the distractions that come from even Christian circles. It's insane. It's insanity. And yet here we are saying, look, I'm looking at this and I want to actually read this other article. It's the Federalist. I don't know if I'm assuming
they're fairly conservative.
Fairly
It's
conservative?
like libertarian conservative.
Okay, so it says this, and I want you to hear this. This was actually written in August, and I didn't know this, but I just want to show some statistics, okay? Last week, Disney announced, this was in August, Disney announced that it had recently released animated film Inside Out 2, had overtaken Frozen 2 as the highest grossing animated film in history, globally grossing $1.46 billion, right? On Sunday, June 28th, the most recent Marvel Cinematic Universe entry, Deadpool and Wolverine, became the sixth highest grossing opening weekend of all time, $438 million, right? So let's go down. Commenters have noted that Inside Out 2 and Deadpool and Wolverine marked a noted departure from implicit wokeness of many Disney's box office bombs. Deadpool and Wolverine, which grossed more in its opening weekend than Marvel's did, makes fun of cancel culture, feminism, and wokeness. It attacked the very thing that they're getting away from. And people are like, that's it. We don't want this disgusting junk, which I think Wolverine is disgusting anyways. I would never watch it. I don't watch that stuff, and I would recommend, just as a Christian, as a dad, don't let your kids watch it. I think it's disgusting humor. I saw half of one a few years ago, and I couldn't sit and watch it.
I heard what Deadpool was like, so I chose not to see it.
Yeah, I didn't know.
And I was like, I think I dodged a bullet there. Especially, it's so tough with like Ryan Reynolds because I appreciate the guy, but his humor is so often so crass. I can't go down that train. But to get back on path, I agree with you. Like, now they're outwardly mocking this whole mentality.
That's making money.
Right.
It's making money to mock the thing that was destroying you.
Yeah.
Which, that's called conquest and conquer, dude. Like, that's what happens. So, like, here's another just part of this article. I want you guys to hear this. Inside and Out, 2 similarly avoided woke tropes, with film critic Christian Toto arguing that the film presents a conservative path forward from a bean counter's perspective. Worthard or Woke similarly reported, even though you can feel how badly it wanted to be, it's not a woke mess. So in other words, people are going to watch, like we used to, The Little Mermaid. It was a fun movie, man. Like the Beauty and the Beast, all these other things. Bambi. I wasn't worried about, were they going to call Bambi a transgender because you couldn't see the Peter because it's a cartoon? You know what I mean? It was a cartoon about Bambi losing his mom and all sorts of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you didn't worry about those things. You didn't think about those things. And now it's like everything has a freaking message. And dude, let's just go with this for a minute. I did this a few months back. Governor Gavin Newsom was cornered and basically said, how come you're not talking about transgender issues? He, from his own mouth, in his confusion, said, why are we talking about less than 1% of the population? Why is that even coming up in conversation? Just let them be, let them do. Cool. So why is less than 1% of the population having almost every single show have to have some kind of role? They're not a part of normal society. They're not. The gays are not a part of normal society. Yeah, we see them, but they're not a part of normal society. It's not like you see a gay relationship on every street corner. Yeah, they exist. You see it. Yep. But it's not like a part of everyday life.
You're right.
You know what I mean? You may have one in the bunch, but to make a cast role. Oh, and then when you do, there's discrimination involved against them.
And they've gone as far as the new standards for, I don't know which awards it was. Was it the Oscars, where the standards require now to have so many people of minority in certain character positions and so many gay, lesbian, transgender roles within this and on the production team and all that. And you've completely blown the whole thing to smithereens because, once again, now it's not about merit, it's about identity.
Right.
It's about what's your identity, quote unquote. What do you label yourself as? That's going to determine whether or not you have merit and value and worth. And the rest of the people, the rest of the country are going, well, that's stupid.
Right.
I have no interest in that.
Yeah.
I have no interest in being beat over the head with messaging from such a small segment of society that is telling me how wrong I am because I don't agree with their enforcement of their own ideology.
Right. I do think too, I have to watch how I say that. It's not a part of everyday life for the average person. If you live in New York and San Francisco, yes, it's around you all the time. And so I have to acknowledge that. I'm sorry for misleading that. I'm not trying to mislead. I'm saying for the average person who works every day, they're not like going over there, oh, is there a gay employee here? Yeah, there he is. Yep, he's part of my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
they're just avoiding it altogether because they don't want to deal with it.
It's a percentage game, right?
It is.
It's when we bring it down to a percentage game, how many people are actually like quote unquote transgender? Now, you may cite the sources that talk about kids and how many kids are struggling with gender identity. Isn't that interesting? I thought you told me that this was from birth, yet now all of a sudden there's a rage amongst kids who are really just at that age where they want to be accepted by their peer groups and they want to be unique. And now all of a sudden they're being told they can be unique and be a victim and be accepted by their peer groups and lifted up as a martyr.
And it's so funny how it grew after 2020 when we shut down schools and kept them in their rooms and
they're online,
had them learn online
all the time.
And you know, jeepers. I mean, what? Because there's no way. See, Christians are terrible to influence their kids this way. It really narrows their scope. But you keeping them in their rooms and telling them that they're little girls instead of being little boys is definitely not narrow-minded. I mean, no, that's not at all. You know, raising your child. There's people out there now. There are couples, and we have seen it where it's like they're saying, "Well, if he's going to be a girl."
Yeah,
I mean, that's
yeah,
because that's not narrow-minded. That's not indoctrination at all.
And somehow there are celebrities who they have 2-3 kids, and all of their kids are struggling with gender identity. Boy, how does that work? That's the genetic lotto,
Right.
isn't it? So the problem is, so you may say, no, it is part of normal life, blah, blah, blah. The messaging is everywhere through the establishment media, through our entertainment, all of that.
Right.
But if you look at the percentages before all of this went crazy, the percentages were very low of those who identified as gay, lesbian, bi, or even lower, identified as transgender.
Right.
Now, the percentages have increased, and some will say, well, that's because they feel more comfortable coming out. I'm sure there's an aspect of that. I'm sure there is. But we still ain't at 90% of the population is this, right? It's still a fairly low percentage. And I would argue there seems to be a very strong social aspect on this.
Yep.
Right? So if you remove the messaging, let's go back to neutral. Let's remove all the messaging. Where will we be in 20 years? If suddenly you're not nailed with, well, your kid might be transgender if they ever wanted to play with a Barbie. So therefore, you've got to get hormone blockers and all of that. Or if your kid ever talked with a lisp, well, they're probably gay, so you've got to lead them down that pathway. If we remove all of that messaging and we go, we're just going to get back to basics. $5 says in 20 years, those percentages come back down.
That's exactly it. Yeah, and I think too, like, even acknowledging that part of it, like if your kid ever plays with a Barbie, you know, who's a boy, it could eventually be a girl. So then you're saying genders do exist.
Right.
These arguments are terrible. They break down so quickly. I think what we've created in society, and this is just true, it happens a lot when nations become despotic, and praise God, things are turning around. That's what we want, right? But when nations become despotic, people lose their identity. Because at first we were just godly people doing for ourselves, wanting for ourselves. The nation becomes more socialistic, right? We start to provide for other people. You don't really need to do that. You need to figure out what you want to do. So then we were telling kids eventually you can go to college and be whatever you want to be. So they get sociology degrees because that's what they wanted to do. You can't make any money doing it, right? So then you become insecure because you're like, I did all this money and all these things and I'm not accepted and I'm not this and nobody wants to hire me. And then all of a sudden you get worse and worse. Parenting got even harder because like when people were told you can't spank your children, I'm like,
yeah,
because of what is it? The parental whatever from state governments, you know, the child protective whatever. So we can't parent our children the way we know we need to. Now I know that there are people like I was whooped as a child, and guess what? I'm doing great. I'm doing just fine. I've never complained about that with my parents, and they were tough.
I was having that conversation with Melissa a little while ago because I came across an article that now and I had been making this argument for a while because everybody said, oh, spanking your kid makes them more aggressive. And I said, whoa. Chicken or, and outside of abuse, right? But I said, chicken or the egg? Is the kid more aggressive and so therefore requires spanking, or did the spanking make the kid more aggressive? Right? And my point was, you're spanking your child probably because there's a behavioral issue. And
I just yawned.
Yeah.
You had me up there. Sorry, I was like,
no, I'm glad you said
I had a 4 hour sleep last night. I couldn't get to bed. My wife's like, you better get to bed. You got to wake up early. I'm like, nah.
Well, the bigger problem is like I start talking and I forget that I'm even running.
No, I'm sorry, dude.
So no, I'm glad you said something. So this concept of, well, spanking your kid makes them more aggressive,
right,
is an assumption, right? They're more aggressive and because of the spanking, or does your kid have more behavioral issues because that's their personality, and so therefore it requires spanking to get them back in line. And now the research is starting to suggest, okay, this connection that we originally drew that spanking is horrible and is going to destroy your kid. Well, maybe that's not so true.
Yeah,
we don't
30
know
years
which
too
came
late.
first. Right,
30 years too late. So now we have kids who have never been disciplined or corrected into love, and we think that discipline is an enemy of these kids, right? So we don't develop in them a character. We don't know who they are. We tell them these are our expectations, go do it, and they're like, do you even like this? You know what I mean? So there's all these things that contribute to a lot of these factors. And the bottom line is Christ offers. It's so crazy that Jesus is the only one that does this. Other gods tell you, and even yourself, I have to merit good works to prove I'm a good person. Christ actually imputes his identity. I don't have to work for my identity. Mm-hmm. He imputes his identity in me, and now I'm his. So like I'm secure in who I am. Now I may not be perfect. I struggle with fear sometimes. I struggle with like apathy. I struggle with all these other things that everyday people deal with. However, I'm looking at a moral code and a standard that has literally brought Western civilization to its feet, right? This moral code of Jesus, like this whole Judeo-Christian ethic, is what brought the West. It literally, I mean, it's changed societies. The 10 Commandments is legit the moral code for most countries. Don't lie, don't kill, don't steal. Where the flip does that come from? You see what I'm saying?
And it shaped the West into something, I don't even know the word to say, because there would be some who would say, well, the West is totally horrible. But I would argue that,
and they're the ones who benefit from it the most.
Well, exactly. And that's the thing is, now that we have these morals that have passed through for centuries in us and have developed the West to the position that it is, now all of a sudden you have people who are saying, okay, now that we're here, now we've got to get rid of all of that because that's just holding us back.
It's terrible.
AKA the whole transgender messaging. And now all of a sudden you're seeing a tearing down of those morals, of those values, and then we wonder why things are slipping and breaking and cracking and falling apart and decaying, you know?
Yeah, and then they go, well, my parents don't accept me or love me. Because the family's broken up now.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so you wanted their acceptance, but were you a defiant kid in the first place? Like, you didn't want to obey them, but now they don't accept. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like, there's so many factors to these things. Like, my parents never accepted me. Cool. What kind of a kid were you when you grew up?
Thank you. Why is it always the parent?
Yeah, exactly. Like, we're trying our best to actually. There's no handbook, dude. You kids who say that about your parents, I love you. I would love to sit down and have a conversation with you. Not out of hate, but wait till you have a kid. It is not easy. Each kid is so different. Isaac and David. Bro, those two kids couldn't be more diametrically opposite. Like Isaac, if you gave him a skid steer, he would knock down a house. You know what David would be doing? Oh, look at these buttons. You know,
yeah.
Isaac's like, you know, like, let's go attack. And David's like, I think it's break time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they're just different kids.
And the parenting between the two has been so different. And that's why I laugh when people are like, don't ever spank your kid no matter what.
Kidding?
It's like you haven't had certain personalities of children, because Isaac was the kid who, before he could talk, would look at you and stick his finger towards the light socket. And you could tell him no and stop him, and he'd laugh at you and do it again. So then you give him a little flick, and he would smile and do it again. And you'd give a harder flick. He'd smile and do it again. It took actual physical discipline for him to learn, no, don't do that.
Right.
Now, if you're going to say, well, just put a cover on it. Great. So what lesson has he learned there?
That's exactly right.
He needs to learn the process that life hurts if you make the wrong choices.
So good. Thank you for this, because like I know that there are certain protocols we should keep, right? I talked a couple weeks ago about getting a flip phone, and I thought, okay, get a flip phone, get rid of all these things. And I was like convicted. Like, so you have to not discipline yourself. You just take away the thing.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm cautious how I say this, because Scripture actually says, put away the evil thing from among you. I totally get it. So put it away. Right? Does it need to be a flip phone? Because what you're saying to yourself, it's like this argument that we make, like girls who go to the beach need to cover up, but men don't. I think that's wrong. I think that's wrong. I think it's if women could cause men to stumble, because guys can't cause women to stumble. Not at all, because pornography amongst women is not prevalent at all. You know what I mean?
No, of course not, even though it is.
Right. So it's like we almost make it to where the woman causes the man to stumble, instead of putting the onus on the man, saying, make a covenant with your eyes, dude. Because guess what? The world is real. And I'm not saying let your women dress scantily. I'm saying we do more of an emphasis on this instead of like saying, hey, discipline yourself, bud. Discipline yourself. And so I think a lot of that has to do with society today. You know what I'm saying? That's why these woke things don't work. They don't work because like we're literally telling kids to sin. And that's what these movies are doing. Like, go ahead and defy everything you've been taught by your parents. You know what parents are like? Yeah, I ain't playing that game, dude.
And to me, there's a deeper truth in that. We know within our hearts the right message and the wrong message. And I think most people allow themselves to be darkened to where it's okay.
Yeah.
Right? Well, okay, it is what it is. But why is it that we have certain stories that just transcend time? They are classics for hundreds and hundreds of years. And I guarantee you, this story about a transgender kid on a softball team is not going to be a classic that transcends centuries. Why is that? Because it's not putting forward truths that are objective truths straight from God. And I think even if it's a secular story, not a Christian story, it can hold aspects of God's truth.
Right.
And promote those aspects of God's truth that are weaved into the story.
Right.
You know, and so then the story becomes a classic because there's something deep within us that aligns with that recognizes it. And is like, oh, what a good message.
Right.
Oh, I can learn a lot from that message, right? Even if it's a tragedy, you still learn something from the message that it's like, man, there's something about this story that just transcends this society or this culture.
100.
And you don't see that with these type of stories because guess what? I don't believe they align with the objective truth that is weaved through creation.
Yeah, 100%. I do think, too, there's this, like, I wanted you to hit this Inc. article so we can kind of round this out. I think it was a good conversation. I think Mike and I really deal with these philosophical discussions at a deep level. And a lot of the times we're like, this would be a really cool conversation to have with everybody else. So if you've gotten some out of this, please comment below. Let us know what you're thinking. I don't care if you disagree with me or agree with me. I'd love to talk to you about it. I don't care if people agree or not. Like, this is just things we've observed and seen. Like that thing about, women in bikinis and men. And like, I just realized my wife actually brought it up to me once that why is it we're telling the youth group girls they have to cover up but not the men?
See,
so we're putting the onus on the girl instead of their disciplines. You know what I mean?
When I was in charge of young adults, we told everybody, T-shirt and shorts. It's the easiest way. It's the lowest common denominator. And I caught freaking flack for that.
I remember that.
Oh, dude.
I remember that.
But to me, it was that concept of like, well, let's just be consistent. Because it's not consistent for me to look at the girls and say, well, you've got to cover up. Okay, guys, run around with your shirts off.
Yeah, and
that
your
doesn't
Speedos.
make sense. Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Because it's Florida.
How about if it's a church function, we all take the modest lowest denominator, common denominator process. We all wear shirts and some shorts.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
And when you're at the beach by yourself doing your own thing, whatever. I'm not in charge of you.
And there is something to be said in scripture about being modest.
Oh my god.
Don't be like the world. Oh my goodness. That's like that's the law. No, it's not. It's being smart. It's not causing another to stumble. That's all that is. But it's on both sides, not just one. That's why I brought it up.
No,
anyway.
I'm glad you said it.
So
okay, so we're gonna go to
this is great because look at how many business are dropping the DEI stuff like flies.
Maybe you've heard about this, and I apologize, I'm on my phone looking at it. But there's a guy named Robbie Starbuck who he's really gone around and gone after businesses. Maybe you remember when John Deere gave up their DEI policies, or Harley Davidson came out with DEI policies, and suddenly they're like, okay, maybe not. Maybe we're not going to do this. Well, the latest one to kind of fall and give it up is Walmart. And Walmart is agreeing to take a step back from all of its DEI stuff. And Robbie Starbuck is really kind of behind this whole thing. But they've joined Ford, Boeing, John Deere, Harley Davidson, Black & Decker, Caterpillar, and even Tractor Supply. Which, isn't it interesting?
Tractor Supply?
Isn't it like Caterpillar, Harley Davidson, Tractor Supply? It's like, who's talking to you guys?
Yeah, because the average farmer's like, I think we need to be having some DEI classes on our farm.
I just think that maybe enough people don't have blue hair. Should go that route. You know what I want? Paint my Caterpillar with rainbow flag. Got to support minority.
There are times, dude. There are times where it's like if I was a cusser, I would have made an entire parody out of that. Because I could just see the farmer. Do you know what I mean? Like your mind can go it's like some funny places, and you're like, I just can't do that.
I just want to represent the minority gay population in our town, Jim. Representing you. We know, bro. We know.
And Jim's like, bro, I'm a widow. I've been a widow for 20 years. What are you talking about?
Jim's gay. There it is, folks. There's always at least one. There's always one.
Because, dude, John Deere couldn't just stick with green. They got to have green, red, blue. I mean, it makes sense, John Deere. You've sold tractors for over 100 years, and you needed to go woke now.
Now it's not just denim. It's shirtless in denim. I think we found our game. So,
dude, I'm just thinking about this Harley Davidson.
Right.
Like,
No,
you can't get any more. You can't get any more America and FU than Harley Davidson.
Although Harley Davidson is a thin line because you go from Harley Davidson with leather jackets to leather chaps, leather vests, and village people. It's a thin line. So that one is kind of like, maybe.
No, I'm thinking of those Hell's Angels going up. They're all thinking about DEI. Yeah. And what do they normally ride? Harleys. I can just see it now. In all their chapter meetings, all these guys, these bikers are all like, how do we become more inclusive to our brothers?
Our brethren need representation. Meanwhile, Slash is in the corner getting hammered going, y'all lost it.
Slash.
I joined to get women and drink beer. Now y'all talking about fairies. I'm done.
Oh, okay.
So
sorry. Go back.
So, anyways, what's Walmart gonna do? Walmart, because Walmart's market share is definitely woke. Now it's pushing the shift by dropping its quotas for working with suppliers that are majority owned by women, minorities, veterans, and LGBTQ community members. Because that was part of DEI policy is it's not just, hey, we support this. It's we're going to buy from suppliers that are marginalized owned, right? They're dropping that. They are not going to renew their 5-year, $100 million commitment to the Center for Racial Equity, which hey, Walmart, if you really want to spend $100 million to be abused by somebody until you're not doing well enough, Self-Evident is open. We're here. Gladly take on that contract for you.
Right.
Because that's all that's happening is you're just being told how bad you are at your job. Additionally, Walmart will remove some LGBTQ merchandise it deems inappropriate from its shelves, which why was it there in the first place? Now all of a sudden it's inappropriate? Go for it.
How come they don't invest $100 million in the Mexican American? I digress. Continue.
Because they'd send it back home. Could you imagine the lineup at the money order counter in Walmart itself?
Western Union is someone signing autographs over there?
There's a line out the door. Not a single person speaks English.
Okay, this is where it gets fun because, 9 of them came out of a van. Wow. This, whoo. Not only did they get rid of DEI, these guys just flat out lost it.
Oh, goodness, man. I knew we could turn this one around somehow.
Oh, buddy, I'll tell you.
Where are we at? So the chain described those moves as changing the way it pursues inclusion, not abandoning the objective itself. So Walmart's statement said, "We've been on a journey and know we aren't perfect, But every decision comes from a place of wanting to foster a sense of belonging, to open doors to opportunities for all our associates, customers, and suppliers, and to be a Walmart for everyone.
That's great. Then do that.
Yeah.
Don't promote one or the other. Just be open.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Here, you actually left it, and it was my fault because I jumped in. It will also cease providing company data to the Human Rights Campaign.
Yeah.
Listen, it'll also cease providing company data to the Human Rights Campaign that tracks treatment of gay, lesbian, and trans employees. How are they tracking that? Who's writing these stories?
Right. And what's your standard of this data? Because guess who gets to interpret the data? The Human Rights Campaign. What do you think the Human Rights Campaign is going to get from your data? You think they're going to look at you and be like,
yeah, we're doing good.
You're doing good. Y'all are winners.
You always need a crisis to keep it funded. And it says this, the company will also review continued funding and company participation in Pride events. See, dude, people speak loud. When people speak, they listen. They have to because they're going to lose money eventually. You can't fund everything with a federal grant or anything like that. So this is what's unique, is the company remains willing to change alongside our associates and customers who represent all of America. Well, the majority of America was like, look, we're tired of this. And I even dare say there's a lot on the Democrat side that aren't for this either.
Yeah.
Right? They did vote for a Democrat, but a lot of it is because they just didn't like Trump, and partly Robert Kennedy.
But how many of them jumped ship because they were so tired of this? I mean, look at the people that Trump is now surrounded by. Elon Musk, Tulsi Gabbard, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., like, these aren't people who are dyed-in-the-wool conservatives. They're people who said, no, my party left me and I'm done with this mess. I'm done with this crap. And you saw kind of the left had the jump the shark moment where a lot of reasonable people went, okay, too far. I can't keep supporting this. I can't go down this trail that you guys want to force me to go down. Because, of course, it's not, hey, we love you no matter what, even if you disagree with us. It's agree with us or get out of the cult. And a lot of people chose to jump out of the cult and be done with it.
Yeah, and this is where they get you, okay, guys? This is where you have to watch what you're saying. Because I think a lot of people take polls as a sign of actually something negative or good. According to an Ipsos Washington Post poll released last June, 61% of respondents called diversity and inclusion policies a good thing, right? Now, did you tell them everything that was on these policies?
Yeah, what was the poll question?
Of course we want to protect people. Yeah, it makes sense to me. What does that mean? Did you actually tell them that you're going to silence a bunch of people in the process? You know what I mean? Did you tell them that a lot of these people will have to forego their belief systems? Did you tell them that people will be forcibly fired and silenced because, hey, they may not agree with something? Did you talk even about the religious freedom of people that, hey, if we just don't believe like that, we don't believe? You see what I'm saying? So like they sweet talk this stuff and people are like, yeah, shoot. There was a guy actually I just watched, it was some video. I can't remember. God, I wish I'd have saved it. But he was like, hey, I'm having everyone sign this petition, to save, there's these doctors that are butchering dogs. What's happening is the dogs are in 9-month terms and they're literally ripping dogs out limb by limb from these puppies. You know what I mean? We're just trying to, he goes, we're just trying to save the life of the mother, and everyone's like signing. He goes, it's similar to like parents, when they have abortions up to 9 months, they're ripping the baby limb from limb, and all people stop. They were like, wait a minute, it's their choice. He goes, wait, but that doesn't make sense. Like, if you're afraid of a dog being ripped limb from the dog's mother, the mother of the puppy, if you don't like that, what about the baby? And it was awesome to watch it because it was like that perspective. People were like, I'm leaving. I don't want to get into this debate. That's what's wicked about it.
Yeah.
That's what's so wicked about it. Because they've been trained, it's about freedom and liberty. Well, shoot, if a doctor wants to perform that, a dog has no spirit, so what the heck? You know what I mean?
Right. And you can't say whether or not the mama dog wanted it or not. So who cares? And
it's a good Merry Christmas.
On that poll thing, I want to hit that one more time with you, because then it says another 75% of people questioned said they supported companies providing mentorship opportunities for underrepresented groups. Now, here's the assumption that they want to lead you towards. Getting rid of the DEI policies means people in underrepresented groups won't get mentorship.
That's so dumb.
That's the connection they're trying to make. There's 75% of people agree with mentoring underrepresented groups. Yeah, me too. Me too. I believe in mentorship. I think we all do.
Yeah.
75% of us at least agree, yeah, mentorship's a good thing.
That's right.
But then they attach that word underrepresented and they make you feel bad because what they're making you
So
think
crazy.
is if I say no, that means it's only underrepresented groups that won't get mentorship.
That's right.
Which that's not what we should want. We should want mentorship for everybody.
I think, and this is what's so wicked about the media. They know how to do this. They know how to turn words, twist words. They know how to get people to think, and so, or actually to force them to think how they want. And it's that old saying. I remember this old preacher used to say, "Let me ask you a question, you young man." He goes, "Have you stopped beating your wife yet?" And the guy's like, he goes, because if you say no, that means you're still doing it. If you say yes, that means you did. And you've never beat your wife in your life, right? But it's like how they, well, you're like, what are you talking about? I don't beat my wife. Well, I don't know. I'm just asking the question. Why are you getting all flustered? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They get you into this mind game, right? The same thing here. It's the same thing. What you're saying is Walmart and all these other companies weren't mentoring these it's so weird how they do this. And we get caught up in the trap. Well, I mean, I guess I support that. You know what I mean?
I support people of all jobs, doing their thing.
Yeah. But it's a Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Companies are actually leaving these policies, and you know why? It's because the people are speaking. Finally, it's like the people are having their voice heard. Now, don't be shocked with when you pull a rubber band like this, there's a reaction, okay? So there's more of that coming. Beware of that stuff. Or I should say be on the lookout. Don't beware, but be on the lookout of these things. And ask the Lord how you're supposed to handle each situation because you're going to face it. No matter what you're doing, there's going to be someone who's going to try to attack you, especially in your business, your job, whatever. And you go, Lord, you got to either protect me or put me in that position so that I can glorify your name. And so standing for the name of Christ and all these other things, you're seeing it here. People don't want these things. They just want to be, like he said, entertained. They just want to be entertained. I don't want to go to a movie and get them some kind of, unless you're going to like us, we went to that movie Homestead. Shameless plug. It's a good movie. My wife's like, there's too much, because she's not a homesteader. It was about homestead. Yeah. You got to go see it. It's a great movie. And I pray Angel Studios sees this so they can sponsor us. But
shameless plug.
Capitalism,
Shameless plug and free advertising.
Yeah,
capitalism. But if you'd like to advertise with us, we'll gladly accept
That's right.
money.
And if you click on the link below, you can actually get discounted tickets. No, I'm kidding. I don't have that. But you guys should go see the movie Homestead. Angel Studios put it out. Really, really good movie. The whole production of it was so good. Right? The storyline is very simple. There was a bomb that went off, and it was nuclear, and people were like trying to escape, and all this. The whole plot is really, really funny.
I want to go see it.
It wasn't goofy at all. It wasn't weird. And it's funny. There are so many different walks of life in it, from homeschooling to city life to workers to single parents to middle of the road, like every walk of life is like in there, and it's really good. You should, and faith is represented, and then there's a part 2. So when you leave the theater, there's like a part 2 that you can get by donating to the thing, and it's neat. So you guys should go see it. It's definitely one of those movies that it's not a Christmas movie for sure. That's my wife's like midway through, she's like, Merry Christmas. I was like, I didn't know what it was. I just saw the previews. I thought it was cool, just before Christmas. It's like Die Hard. Like, how is that a Christmas movie? I don't know, but like it's just Die Hard. So anyways, guys, Merry Christmas. It's a gift. God is hearing our prayers. Again, there's a backlash coming. However, we need to stand firm. If God brought us this far, he won't drop us now.
Amen.
So again, continue to go to theselfevidenttruth.com. Thanks for so much for supporting us this year. We will be back on Friday doing another podcast. But if we don't see you until then, if we don't put out a live video or anything like that, and you'll probably read a post of ours on Instagram or Facebook or something, Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas. Your Savior is born. I know that Jesus wasn't born on December 25th. There's really I'm just throwing it out there. It's
the
just
fact we have to preface
but it's
this.
recognized that, hey, this is what we're going to celebrate. If there was no birth of Jesus, there is no death, burial, and resurrection for my life. So we bless you with that. Keep Christmas. Keep the main thing the main thing. Go bless another. That's what it's about. Go.
Amen.
It's a time when we can let go of ourselves and give to others. Praise God. So
Amen.
God bless you. Merry Christmas.
All right. Merry Christmas. Love y'all.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.